Hi everyone, welcome back to Rachel's Enchanting Cakes. How are we all doing? Today I'm going to be showing you how to ice a fruit cake. Now, the traditional fruit cake tends to be used for Christmas or weddings. Obviously here we're decorating it on a Christmas theme. I'm going to show you just how simple this effect is to achieve. But if you're just wanting to learn how to ice the fruitcake, then this is a tutorial for you. Because first of all, we need to cover up some of the bumps in the actual fruitcake. You don't waste fruitcake, so you do not level it off. So I'm going to show you how you get around that. We then have to cover it with marzipan and finally the fondant. As always, everything you need to know, straight to the point in a simple step-by-step format. You will also find this fruitcake as a full, detailed recipe on the channel, and I will leave a link to that in the description below this video. Let's make a start. This fruitcake has been maturing for a few months now. You will find the full recipe and method and what it's actually wrapped in the detailed tutorial link in the description. All I do now is unwrap it. So this has been soaked in alcohol and it will have gone a much darker colour compared to when it was baked. And look at how beautiful that is. Now, mine isn't a perfect square because when it was fed a few months ago, I actually cut a slice away just to taste test. But it allows you to now see inside of the actual cake. In order to cover this 10-inch square fruit cake, you will need roughly 1.5 kilogram of marzipan. You're also going to need some apricot jam. Now you want to start by heating this up in the microwave or over a low heat and simply brush this all over your cake. The cake must be flipped upside down. Now, fruitcakes don't rise very much. However, there will be a slight dome. So the dome needs to be on the underside to prevent levelling off. Now, due to this cake literally being filled with fruit, it ends up quite bumpy. This can be quite time consuming, but taking your marzipan, just fill in some of those larger bumps. This will help make it smoother when we add our layers of frosting. Here you can see how it needs to be covered. But now we have this ridge underneath. Remember how we flip the cake upside down so we don't have to level it off? So here we roll out sausage shapes of marzipan and simply tuck them underneath that gap. This will allow us to first of all have a flawless finish. But secondly, we are not wasting any of that delicious, rich fruit cake that we have spent ages making. I then rolled out the rest of my marzipan and placed this directly over my cake. Make sure you do not use any more than 1.5 kilogram. You will find if you use too much marzipan, it can be a lot more difficult to cover. Simply go over this with some smoothers. You then want to take some brandy, or you can use some cooled down boiled water. You now want to brush this all over the top and sides of the cake, and this will give the fondant something to stick to. I'm going to be using a paneling technique for this cake, so at the moment I'm only covering the top. However, if you're wanting to cover your cake all in one go without any of those beautiful snowflakes on the side, you would simply roll out 1.5 kilogram of fondant and cover it just like you did with the marzipan. It's never been so easy to create such beautiful snowflakes around the sides of your cake using the Karen Davis sugar snowflake mould. I've added some icing sugar first, and then using a high quality fondant, simply place this inside. Gently allow the mould to come away and just look at how striking and detailed those snowflakes are. So detailed yet so easy to achieve. All you need to do now is add one panel at a time, and you've got two choices here. You can either apply the panel to the cake and then trim off the excess at the top, or measure how deep the cake actually is and trim off the excess before you apply it. Simply repeat this 2 more times. I only needed 3 pieces in order to cover the 10-inch square cake. I then made fondant accents for the cake. So for the bow, I'm using an Outboss Stamp and Cut by Sweet Stamp. You simply place the outboss directly on top of some rolled out fondant and roll over the top. Take the cutter and cut away the excess fondant and you are left with a beautiful bow. Now, in order to paint this, all you will need is some edible luster dust. I'm choosing to use a gold. Some dipping solution. This will allow it to evaporate very fast, and a fine brush as well as a palette. I then simply painted this bow and just left it to one side to set. Any beginner baker can achieve this with the right equipment. They are not expensive and shipped worldwide. Using the Snowflakes and Christmas Trees mould by Karen Davis, I simply add some icing sugar to each Christmas tree and then add a high quality fondant. These will then very easily come away from the mould just like we did with the snowflake panels, and you've got 3 different Christmas trees. I then painted each one individually using the same technique and the same luster dust as I did for the bow. For the Christmas trees that are stood up on the cake, simply place a cocktail stick directly in the base before the fondant starts to set. To apply the bow, I added some edible glue once it had all set and then secured this into place just using a few cocktail sticks. Now we've got a lovely detailed side, so you want to make sure it's pushed down and stuck to the fondant. I then simply applied the Christmas trees with the same principle that I did the bow. So I've just added a small amount of edible glue to the back and I place them around the sides of the cake where I think they look best. Those cocktail sticks will be removed shortly. For the ones on the top, we've replaced a cocktail stick inside just for support. They've been left to dry and then you will have no issues simply slotting them directly into the top of your cake. Now for this beautiful Christmas tree, that is available as a separate tutorial and I will leave a link for that in the description below this one. However, I would advise not making it gravity defying like I have on this footage and simply sticking to the tutorial that you will find in order to create this just for stability. It really was as simple and as easy as that. Happy baking, everyone. I really do hope I've helped you again today, and I'll be back soon with more new, completely free content.